Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the strange planet below. The red world looked angry and dangerous. His ship, the New Horizon, floated in space above it. Jake had been exploring space for 10 years, but this was different. This was the first time humans had found another thinking race. "Commander, we're getting some weird readings," said Dr. Lisa Grant. She was the team's science person. Lisa always looked worried, but today she looked extra worried. "There are ships coming toward us, big ones." Jake looked at his screen. 3 massive black ships moved toward them like hunting wolves. The ships were huge, much bigger than anything humans had built. They looked scary with sharp points and red lights. "Captain Collins, what do you think?" Jake asked his second in command. Pete Collins was a good soldier. He always followed the rules. Right now, Pete looked like he wanted to run away. "Sir, I think we should leave. Now." But Jake was curious. Humans were always curious. It got them in trouble, but it also helped them learn new things. "Let's try to talk to them first. Maybe they're friendly." The alien ships surrounded the New Horizon. Jake tried to send a message, but the aliens did not answer. Instead, something grabbed their ship. It felt like a giant hand was pulling them. "Down to the red planet." "They're taking us down," Pete said. His voice was calm, but Jake could tell he was scared. The ship landed with a bump on the alien world. Through the windows, Jake saw a red sky and black rocks. Strange buildings rose up like sharp teeth. The air outside looked thick and dark. "Stay calm, everyone," Jake told his team. There were only 5 of them. Lisa the scientist, Pete the captain, and 2 other crew members named Ben and Kate. They were good people, but they had never met aliens before. The aliens came for them quickly. The door of their ship opened by itself. Jake had not opened it. That meant the aliens had better technology than humans. The creatures that walked in were tall and scary. They looked like people, but wrong. Their skin was pale white, almost like snow. Their eyes glowed red in the dark. They wore black armor that looked very strong. Jake thought they looked like vampires from old movies. "Do not move," said one of the aliens. It spoke perfect English, which surprised Jake. "You will come with us." The aliens had weapons that looked like they could cut through anything. Jake and his team had no choice. They followed the aliens out of their ship. The alien city was amazing and terrible at the same time. The buildings were made of black stone and red metal. Strange lights floated in the air. The aliens who lived there all looked the same, pale, tall and dangerous. They watched Jake's team walk by with glowing red eyes. "Where are they taking us?" Ben whispered. "Probably to their leader," Jake whispered back. He tried to sound brave, but his heart was beating fast. They walked through the city for a long time. Finally, they reached the biggest building Jake had ever seen. It was like a castle made of black glass. The aliens led them inside. The inside of the building was even more impressive. The walls were covered with strange art. Red crystals gave off light. Everything looked expensive and old. The end of a long hall there was a throne, and on the throne sat the most beautiful and scary creature Jake had ever seen. She was tall, maybe 7 feet. Her skin was white like milk, but it seemed to glow. Her hair was long and silver. She wore black armor that looked like it was made for a queen. Her eyes were the brightest red Jake had ever seen. They seemed to look right through him. "I am Queen Vexara," she said. Her voice was smooth like honey but cold like ice. "You are humans. The first humans to enter my territory." Jake stepped forward. He always did this when things got scary. His team stayed behind him. Pete grabbed his arm to try to stop him, but Jake pulled away. "Your Majesty," Jake said with a small bow. He was not sure if aliens liked bows, but it seemed polite. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're explorers from Earth. We didn't know this was your territory." Queen Vexara stood up from her throne. She was even taller than Jake thought. When she moved, her armor made soft clicking sounds. "Explorers," she said, walking closer. "Or spies." "Just explorers," Jake said. He tried to smile. "We were looking for new worlds. New friends, maybe." The Queen laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "Friends? Humans make friends with the Sanguis. Empire? That is interesting. Jake had never heard of the Sanguis Empire, but he guessed that was what these aliens called themselves. The Queen kept walking closer. Jake could smell something sweet and dangerous about her. "Tell me, human Jake Morrison," she said, now standing very close to him. "Why should I not kill you and your friends right now?" Jake's team made scared noises. Behind him, Ben and Kate were shaking. Even Pete looked ready to run, but Jake had an idea. It was probably a bad idea, but Jake was known for bad ideas that sometimes worked. "Well, Your Majesty," Jake said with his biggest smile, "we were just looking for a nice vacation spot, though I have to say the welcome committee could use some work." Queen Vexara's red eyes opened wide. Jake could tell she was not used to people joking with her, but she did not look angry. She looked curious. "You make jokes when you face death?" she asked. "It's what humans do," Jake said. "We laugh when we're scared, it helps." The Queen moved even closer. Now she was so close Jake could see his reflection in her red eyes. His team was probably thinking he had lost his mind. "You are very strange, human," the Queen said softly. Jake looked at her beautiful alien face. Something about her made him feel brave and stupid at the same time. Maybe it was the danger. Maybe it was the way she looked at him like he was a puzzle she wanted to solve. "You know what?" Jake said, looking right into her glowing eyes. The words came out before he could stop them. "I desire you." The silence in the throne room was complete. Jake immediately realized how that sounded. His face turned red. "I'm kidding, of course," he added quickly with a nervous laugh. But Queen Vexara was not laughing. She was staring at him with those red eyes. Then, to everyone's complete shock, she reached up and began to remove her helmet. The black metal came off, showing more of her silver hair. Then she started taking off the rest of her armor. Jake said, suddenly very confused. "Your Majesty? What are you doing?" Pete grabbed Jake's arm. "Sir, what did you just do?" But Queen Vexara just smiled. It was the first real smile Jake had seen from her, and it was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jake watched in complete confusion as Queen Vexara removed piece after piece of her black armor. His team stood behind him, frozen in shock. Pete's mouth hung open. Lisa looked like she might faint. Ben and Kate had grabbed each other's arms and were shaking. "Your Majesty," Jake said carefully, "I think there might be some confusion here." Queen Vexara set down her chest armor on the steps of her throne. Underneath, she wore a simple black dress that seemed to shimmer in the red light. She looked less scary now, but somehow more beautiful. "No confusion, Jake Morrison," she said. Her voice was softer now. "You have spoken the ancient words. You have begun the bonding of essence." "The what now?" Jake asked. An alien who had been standing quietly near the throne suddenly stepped forward. He was tall like the Queen, but older looking. His red eyes were wide with shock. "My Queen," he said in a worried voice, "you cannot be serious. He is not Sanguis. He does not understand our ways." Queen Vexara looked at the older alien with calm eyes. "Zethrock, my advisor, speaks truth. The human does not know our customs, but ignorance does not change what has been spoken." Jake raised his hand like he was in school. "Excuse me, but could someone please explain what's happening? Because I think I may have accidentally done something very important." The Queen smiled again. This time it reached her glowing red eyes. "Sit, humans. You will learn." She pointed to some chairs that appeared from nowhere. Jake was starting to understand that these aliens had technology that seemed like magic. His team sat down carefully, like the chairs might disappear. Queen Vexara sat on her throne again, but in a more relaxed way. In our culture, when someone says, "I desire you," while looking into another's eyes, they are asking to understand that person's essence, their life force, their soul, as you humans might say. Lisa leaned forward. As the team scientist, she was always interested in learning new things even when those things were scary. "So it's not romantic?" "Romance is a human concept," the Queen said. We sanguis understand deeper connections. To desire someone's essence is to wish to know them completely, to share life force. It is the most sacred thing one can offer. Jake rubbed his forehead. So when I said I desired you, you offered to bond with me, Queen Vexara finished. And I accepted by removing my armor. Armor hides the true self. By removing it, I show I am willing to share my essence with you, Tai stood up quickly. Sir, with respect, we need to leave, now. This is getting too complicated. But Zethrock, the Queen's advisor, stepped forward again. You cannot leave now, human. The bonding has begun. To break it would bring great shame to our Queen. What exactly does this bonding involve? Lisa asked in her careful scientist voice. Queen Vexara looked thoughtful. Usually both people would share blood and life force. The sanguis would feed and both would become connected in mind and spirit. But you are human. I do not know what will happen. Jake felt a chill run down his back. Feed? You mean like drinking blood? We are what you might call vampires. Yes, the Queen said simply. We need life force to survive. Blood carries life force. But we have learned that each species has different types of life force. The Queen stood up and walked over to Jake. This time he did not feel scared. He felt curious, which was very human of him. Your life force is different, Jake Morrison, she said, reaching out to touch his forehead with one pale finger. It is strong, bright, and it does not seem to fade when I am near it. Most species grow weak around us. You do not. Jake felt a strange tingling where she touched him. It was not unpleasant. It felt warm and energizing. That's impossible, Lisa said. Humans shouldn't be able to do that. Yet here we are, Queen Vexara said, still touching Jake's forehead. Your commander's life force actually grows brighter when I touch it. I have never seen this before. Zethrock looked very unhappy about this. My queen, this could be dangerous. We know nothing about these humans. Which is why we must learn, the Queen said, finally moving her hand away from Jake's forehead. Zethrock, bring food for our guests. Real food, not our usual meal. Jake realized she meant they would not be drinking blood for dinner, which was a relief. Over the next few hours, Jake and his team learned amazing things about the Sanguis Empire. They were not conquerors by choice. They were refugees, another alien. Race called the Devourers had been hunting them across the galaxy, destroying world after world. The Devourers consume everything, Queen Vexara explained as they ate strange but tasty alien food. Not just life, but the very concept of life itself. They have destroyed 17 worlds so far. That's horrible, Kate said. She was the team's communications expert and she had been quiet all day. How long have you been running from them? 300 of your years, Zethrock answered. We search for worlds where we can hide and survive, but they always find us. Jake was starting to understand. So you take over planets not because you want to rule them, but because you need somewhere safe to live. Yes, the Queen said, and we take life force from other species because we must. Without it, we die. But we try to take only what we need. Lisa had been writing notes in her little book all day. Your Majesty, may I ask how your feeding works exactly? For scientific purposes? Queen Vexara looked amused. You may ask. When we feed, we take some life force through blood. Usually this makes the host weak for a while, but they recover. We are not monsters, though I know we may seem so. But with humans it's different? Jake asked. The Queen nodded. With you, Jake Morrison, it seems I could feed and you would not grow weak. In fact, you might grow stronger. This is new to me. That night, the Sanguis gave Jake's team rooms in the palace. The beds were strange, but comfortable. Jake could not sleep. He kept thinking about what the Queen had said about life force and bonding. Around midnight, he heard a soft knock on his door. When he opened it, Queen Vexara stood there. She was not wearing her armor, just the simple black dress. I cannot sleep either, she said. May I enter? Jake stepped aside. The Queen walked into his room and looked around at the human technology his team had brought. Your people make interesting things, she said, picking up Jake's tablet computer. Simple but clever. We're good at making tools, Jake said. It's one of our talents. The Queen set down the tablet and looked at him. What are your other talents? Jake thought about it. We're stubborn. We don't give up easily. We make friends quickly. We adapt to new things. And we laugh at danger. All useful traits, the Queen said. Especially the stubbornness. My people are very set in our ways. We follow the old customs, the old strategies. It has kept us alive, but it has not helped us win against the Devourers. Jake sat down on his strange alien bed. Maybe that's what you need. Someone who thinks differently. Queen Vexara moved closer. Is that an offer, Jake Morrison? Jake looked into her red eyes. They were not scary anymore. They were beautiful, and sad and hopeful all at once. Yeah, he said. I think it is. The Queen smiled, and this time it was not the scary smile of a vampire queen. It was the smile of someone who had been alone for a very long time and had finally found a friend. Then tomorrow, she said, we will begin your real education about the Sanguis Empire, and perhaps you will teach us about being human. As she left his room, Jake realized something important had changed. He was not a prisoner anymore. He was not even just an explorer. He was becoming something new, something that had never existed before. He was becoming a bridge between two very different worlds. 3 weeks had passed since Jake's team arrived on Xerion Prime. Everything had changed. Jake spent his days learning about Sanguis culture and teaching Queen Vexara about humans. His team was no longer scared. They were fascinated. Lisa worked with Sanguis scientists every day. She learned that their technology was based on something they called life energy. It was like electricity, but alive. It's amazing, Jake, she told him one morning. They can grow their buildings instead of building them. They can make their weapons think for themselves, but they do everything the same way their ancestors did thousands of years ago. Pete had become friends with the Sanguis warriors. He learned their fighting techniques and they learned human military tactics. The aliens were surprised by how humans fought. They're so precise, Pete explained to Jake. Every move is planned. Every battle follows the same pattern. But we humans, we change our plans every 5 minutes. They don't know what to do with that. Jake was in the Queen's private study when the alarm started. Red lights flashed everywhere. Sanguis soldiers ran through the halls. What's happening? Jake asked. Queen Vexara looked worried for the first time since Jake had met her. Ships are coming. Human ships. Jake's heart jumped. Earth found us? Your Admiral Kate Foster approaches. With a full battle fleet, Zethrock said, running into the room. She demands the return of her people. Jake had mixed feelings about this. He was happy to know Earth cared about him and his team, but he was also worried. Admiral Foster was a good person, but she was also a soldier. She might not understand what was happening here. I need to talk to her, Jake said. That might not be safe, Queen Vexara said. Your Admiral sounds angry, Jake smiled. Trust me, I can handle Admiral Foster. An hour later, Jake stood in the Sanguis landing bay watching human ships come down from the sky. They were good ships, but they looked small and simple compared to Sanguis technology. Admiral Foster was the first person to step off the lead ship. She was a short woman with gray hair and serious eyes. Behind her came dozens of human soldiers, all carrying weapons. Commander Morrison, she said in her no-nonsense voice. Are you injured? No, ma'am. We're all fine. Admiral Foster looked around the alien landing bay. Her soldiers kept their weapons ready. Step away from the aliens, Commander. We're getting you out of here. Actually, Admiral, I'd like you to meet Queen Vexara, Jake said, gesturing to the Queen who had just arrived with her own guards. Admiral Foster looked at the tall, pale alien Queen with glowing red eyes. So you're the one who captured my people. I am Queen Vexara of the Sanguis Empire, the Queen said with dignity. Your people are not captured, they are guests. Guests don't usually get taken at gunpoint, Admiral Foster said coldly. Jake stepped between them. Admiral, there's a lot to explain. These aliens aren't our enemies. They're refugees, and they need our help. Commander Morrison, said a new voice. Jake turned to see Commander Ryan Blake stepping forward. Blake was younger than Jake, but he followed military rules perfectly. He never took risks. Commander Blake, Jake said with less enthusiasm. Sir, Admiral Foster has ordered me to take you and your team into protective custody until we can determine what these aliens have done to you, Blake said. Done to me? Jake asked. It's clear they've influenced your thinking somehow, Blake said, looking at Queen Vexara with suspicion. No human would willingly cooperate with aliens this quickly. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. Commander Blake, with respect, you don't know what you're talking about. But Blake was already giving orders to his soldiers. Arrest Commander Morrison and his team. Consider them compromised. The human soldiers moved forward. The Sanguis guards moved to protect Jake. Suddenly, everyone had weapons pointed at everyone. Else, stop! Jake yelled. Nobody shoot anybody! But the situation was getting worse fast. Admiral Foster was shouting orders. Blake was demanding Jake's surrender. Queen Vexara's guards were ready to fight. Then something unexpected happened. A young Sanguis warrior named Nixandra stepped forward. She was smaller than the other Sanguis, and she had been learning human phrases from Pete. Hey, everyone chill. Out, she said in perfect English slang. Everyone stopped and stared at her. A Sanguis warrior had just used human slang. Jake Morrison is good people, Nixandra continued, mixing human expressions with her formal alien way of speaking. He teaches us to think like humans. We teach him to think like Sanguis. It's win-win, as you humans say. Admiral Foster looked confused. Did that alien just use human slang? We learn from each other, Queen Vexara said. Your Jake Morrison has taught us many things. Humor, flexibility, hope. And what have you taught him? Blake asked suspiciously. Queen Vexara smiled. Patience, strategy, and that not all aliens are enemies. Jake saw his chance. Admiral, give me 10 minutes to explain. Then you can decide what to do. Admiral Foster looked around at the mixed group of humans and aliens. Some of her soldiers were already lowering their weapons, curious about the strange friendship they were seeing. 10 minutes, Commander, she said. Jake quickly explained everything. The Sanguis, Empire's history, the Devourers that hunted them, the bonding ritual he had accidentally started, the things both species were learning from each other. You're telling me, Admiral Foster said slowly, that you've accidentally become some kind of alien diplomat? Something like that, Jake said. Lisa stepped forward with her notes. Admiral, their technology could help Earth enormously, and our creativity could help them survive. Jake found a way to make both species stronger. Pete nodded. The Sanguis are good fighters, but they think in patterns. Humans think in chaos. Together, we might be able to beat these devourer things. Admiral Foster looked thoughtful, but Blake was still angry. This is insane, Blake said. We can't trust aliens we just met. Morrison has clearly been compromised. Look at him. He's defending them like they're his own people. Maybe because they are becoming my people, Jake said quietly. Blake turned red in the face. That's exactly what I mean. No real human would say that. Queen Vexara had been listening quietly, but now she moved forward. Her guards followed her. Commander Blake, she said in her royal voice. Jake Morrison is more human than anyone I have ever met. His loyalty, his courage, his stubborn refusal to give up. These are the most human traits of all, and he has chosen to share them with us. I don't care what you think, alien, Blake said, pointing his weapon at her. That was a mistake. Every Sanguis in the room suddenly moved to defend their queen, but they were not the only ones. Pete stepped in front of Blake's weapon. Lisa moved to Jake's side. Even Ben and Kate, who had been quiet during the whole argument, came forward to stand with the aliens. Most surprising of all, Several of Admiral Foster's soldiers lowered their weapons and looked uncomfortable about threatening the aliens. "Stand down, Blake," Admiral Foster said quietly. "But Admiral—" "I said stand down." Admiral Foster's voice echoed through the landing bay. Blake reluctantly lowered his weapon, but he still looked angry. Admiral Foster walked over to Jake and Queen Vexera. "Your Majesty, Commander Morrison, I think we need to have a longer conversation. There are things happening here that I need to understand." Queen Vexera bowed slightly. "You are welcome in my palace, Admiral Foster. Your Jake Morrison has taught us that humans value honesty above politeness. So I will be honest with you. We need each other. The Devourers are coming, and neither of our species can face them alone." Admiral Foster looked at Jake. "Commander, do you really believe these aliens can be trusted?" Jake looked around the room. He saw Nixandra teaching human curse words to other young Sanguis warriors. He saw Lisa excitedly discussing alien science with Sanguis researchers. He saw Pete showing Sanguis soldiers how to do human-style tactical maneuvers. Most importantly, he saw Queen Vexera looking at him with those red eyes that were no longer scary. They were the eyes of someone who had learned to hope again. "Admiral," Jake said, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Admiral Foster nodded slowly. "Then God help us all, because if you're wrong, we're about to make the biggest mistake in human history. And if I'm right," Jake said with his characteristic smile, "we're about to make the best alliance in the galaxy." 2 months after Admiral Foster's arrival, everything changed again. The Devourers had found Xerion Prime. Jake stood in the command center of the newly built human Sanguis base, watching the screens with growing horror. The enemy ships were massive, but they were not built like normal ships. They looked alive, like giant space creatures with too many teeth. "How many?" Admiral Foster asked. 50 bioships, reported Kelthor, a Sanguis scientist who had learned to work with human technology. Each one the size of a small moon. Jake felt sick. The biggest human ship was tiny compared to just one Devourer vessel. "What do we know about their tactics?" asked General Alex Turner, Earth's top military strategist who had arrived with more human ships. Queen Vexera pulled up images on the main screen. They showed dead worlds, planets that had been stripped of all life. "The Devourers do not just kill," she said. "They consume the concept of life itself. Where they have been, nothing can ever live again." "That's impossible," General Turner said. "We thought so too," Zethrock replied sadly, "until we saw it happen to our homeworld." Jake studied the approaching ships. There was something about them that bothered him. They moved too perfectly together, like they were all controlled by one mind. "They're a hive mind," he said suddenly. "All those ships are controlled by one intelligence." Queen Vexera nodded. "Yes, the Devourer consciousness controls millions of creatures across the galaxy. It thinks as one, acts as one. Which means it has one weakness," Jake said, getting excited. "It can't handle chaos. It can't predict random behavior." General Turner looked skeptical. "Commander, these creatures have destroyed 17 civilizations. I don't think confusion is going to stop them." "Not confusion," Jake said. "Humanity." Admiral Foster understood first. "You want to combine human and Sanguis forces completely, not just as allies but as one mixed military." "Exactly," Jake said. "The Sanguis have incredible technology and psychic abilities. Humans have creativity and unpredictability. Together, we might be something the Devourers can't understand or counter." "It has never been done," Queen Vexera said quietly. "Lots of things had never been done until humans tried them," Pete said with a grin. General Turner was already making plans. "We'd need perfect coordination between species, complete trust, and some way to communicate instantly across the entire fleet." Queen Vexera looked at Jake. "There is a way, but it is dangerous." "The bonding ritual," Jake said, understanding immediately. "If we complete the bonding of essence," the Queen explained, "I could create a psychic link with Jake. Through him, I could coordinate both human and Sanguis forces as one military unit." "What are the risks?" Admiral Foster asked. "It has never been done with a human before," Zethrock said. "Jake could die. or lose his mind, or become something that is no longer human. The command center went quiet. Everyone looked at Jake. "How long do we have before the Devourers arrive?" Jake asked. 6 hours, Kael'thor answered. Jake looked around at all the faces watching him. His human friends looked scared, but determined. The Sanguis looked hopeful but worried. Admiral Foster looked like she was calculating odds. "Well," Jake said with his usual smile, "I've always wanted to try something completely crazy." The bonding ceremony took place in the Queen's throne room. Jake's team was there, along with Admiral Foster and General Turner. Sanguis nobles and human officers stood together, watching something that had never happened before. Queen Vexara had explained what would happen. She would share her life force with Jake, and he would share his with her. They would become connected in mind and spirit. If it worked, Jake would be able to think like a Sanguis while staying human, and the Queen would understand human creativity and chaos. "Are you sure about this?" Lisa asked Jake before it started. "No," Jake said honestly, "but I'm sure we have to try." The ceremony was simpler than Jake had expected. Queen Vexara removed her armor again, as she had that first day. But this time, Jake understood what it meant. She was making herself completely vulnerable to him. Jake removed his own uniform jacket, showing his trust in return. They sat facing each other on the floor of the throne room. Queen Vexara took Jake's hands in hers. Her pale skin was warm, not cold as he had expected. "Close your eyes, Jake Morrison," she said softly. "Open your mind to me." Jake closed his eyes. At first, nothing happened. Then he felt something warm and strange flowing through him. It was like Queen Vexara's thoughts were mixing with his own thoughts. He could feel her memories, her sadness at losing her home world, her fear of the Devourers, her amazement at meeting humans, her growing friendship with Jake, and she could feel his memories, his love for exploring space, his loyalty to his team, his determination to protect both humans and Sanguis, his strange human ability to laugh in the face of danger. The connection grew stronger. Jake could sense every Sanguis in the city, their thoughts, their fears, their hopes. It was overwhelming. But then he felt something else. Through Queen Vexara's connection to her people, he could sense the human fleet in space above them. Admiral Foster's worry, General Turner's determination, Pete's excitement about the coming battle. "It is working," Queen Vexara said, but now Jake could hear her voice both out loud and inside his mind. "I can feel everyone," Jake said in amazement. "Humans and Sanguis both." The bonding was complete just in time. Alarms started ringing throughout the city. The Devourers had arrived. Jake and Queen Vexara rushed to the command center, still holding hands. They found chaos. The screens showed the massive bioships surrounding the planet. "They're jamming all our communications," General Turner reported. "We can't coordinate the fleet." "Yes, we can," Jake said. He was still connected to Queen Vexara, and through her, to every Sanguis in the Empire. And now, somehow, he was also connected to the human fleet. "All ships," Jake said, not into a radio but into the psychic link. "This is Morrison. Can you hear me?" Admiral Foster's voice came back, not through speakers but directly into Jake's mind. "Jake, how are you doing this?" "Long story. Right now, we need to work together like we've never worked together before." The battle that followed was unlike anything in history. Jake coordinated both fleets as one force. Human ships with their creative tactics worked alongside Sanguis vessels with their advanced weapons. The Devourers were confused. They had fought many species, but never anything like the combined human-Sanguis force. Every time the bioships adapted to one strategy, the mixed fleet would suddenly change to something completely different. "Human ship Delta 7, dive under that big bioship," Jake commanded through the link. "Sanguis Squadron 3, hit it from above when Delta 7 distracts it." The strategy worked. The Devourer ship was destroyed, but there were still 49 more, and they were learning. "They're adapting faster," General Turner warned. "Then we adapt faster too," Jake said. Through his bond with Queen Vexara, he could feel the creativity of every human pilot and the precision of every Sanguis warrior. All ships' new plan, Jake announced. We're going to do something stupid. Admiral Foster's mental voice sounded amused. Define stupid. We're going to ram their biggest ship with everything we have. That is stupid, General Turner said. Exactly. They'll never expect it. The combined fleet charged straight at the largest bioship. The Devourers, confused by this seemingly suicidal tactic, focused all their defenses on stopping the charge, which was exactly what Jake wanted. At the last second, every ship in the attack suddenly changed direction, swinging around the big bioship to attack from behind where the defenses were weakest. The tactic worked perfectly. The largest Devourer ship was destroyed in seconds, but the victory came at a cost. The psychic link was burning Jake's mind. Coordinating so many people at once was like trying to think 1,000 thoughts at the same time. Jake, you need to stop, Queen Vexara said, both out loud and in his mind. The link is too strong. It will kill you. Not yet, Jake said through gritted teeth. We can win this. He pushed the psychic connection even harder. Now he could feel every human and Sanguis in the entire battle, their fears, their hopes, their determination to protect their homes and friends. And suddenly, Jake understood something important about being human. Humans were not just creative or stubborn or brave. Humans were willing to sacrifice everything, for others, even for people they barely knew. That willingness to sacrifice was what made humans special. And now, through the psychic link, that human trait was spreading to the Sanguis. The final part of the battle was a coordinated charge by every ship in both fleets. Humans and Sanguis fighting together as one people, willing to die for each other. The Devourers could not understand it. Their hive mind could not process the concept of individuals choosing to sacrifice themselves for the good of others. The remaining bioships were destroyed one by one. When it was over, Jake collapsed. The psychic link had burned him out completely. But he was alive, and so were both fleets. Queen Vexara knelt beside him, holding his hand. You did it, Jake Morrison. You saved us all. Jake smiled weakly. We did it. Humans and Sanguis together. Admiral Foster's voice came over the regular radio now. All ships, return to base. We won. But Jake knew it was more than a victory. It was proof that two completely different species could become one people when they had to. And that was the most human thing of all. 6 months after the battle against the Devourers, Jake stood in his new office on the space station that orbited between Earth and Azirian Prime. The station was built by both humans and Sanguis working together. It was beautiful and strange, with human technology mixed with Sanguis crystal growth methods. Jake looked different now. The psychic bonding had changed him. His hair had some silver streaks, like Queen Vexara's. His eyes sometimes glowed with a faint red light when he was thinking hard. But he was still human, still stubborn, still curious, still ready to laugh at danger. Commander Morrison, came a voice from his door. Jake turned to see Ambassador Maria Santos, Earth's first official alien relations specialist. She was a smart woman who had come to learn from Jake's experiences. Please, just call me Jake, he said. What's the news from Earth? The president wants to know when you're coming home, Maria said with a smile. Jake looked out his office window at the mixed fleet of human and Sanguis ships patrolling together. This is home now, he said. Maria nodded. She understood. Jake had become something new, not just human, not just Sanguis, but a bridge between both worlds. The Queen is here to see you, Maria said. Send her in. Queen Vexara entered Jake's office. She looked different too. She wore a uniform that combined Sanguis design with human practicality. Her silver hair was shorter now, in a human-style cut, but her red eyes still glowed, and she still moved with royal grace. How are the new recruits doing? She asked, sitting in the chair across from Jake's desk. Pretty well, Jake said. Though I think Tony Chen is still scared of Nixandra. Jake was now in charge of training the next generation of human Sanguis cooperation teams. Young people from both species came to the station to learn how to work together. Dr. Tony Chen was a brilliant human scientist, but he got nervous around aliens. Nixandra was the young Sanguis warrior who had learned human slang. She thought Tony's nervousness was funny and kept trying to teach him Sanguis curse words. Tony will adapt, Queen Vexara said. Humans always do. Speaking of adaptation, Prince Dexion wants to meet with you later. Prince Dexion was the Queen's younger brother. He was interested in human military tactics and had asked to become Jake's co-commander for the joint forces. What does he want? To discuss, Jake asked. The new alien signal we detected? Jake sat up straight. 3 days ago, both human and Sanguis sensors had picked up a signal from deep space. It was clearly made by intelligent creatures, but it was not from any known species. Have we figured out what they're saying? Jake asked. Yes, Queen Vexara said, and she looked amused. They are asking for help. They say the Devourers attacked their world, but they fought them off. Now they want to meet the people who defeated the Devourer fleet. Jake grinned. So our reputation is spreading. It, seems so. Admiral Foster thinks we should send a diplomatic mission. When do we leave? Jake asked. Queen Vexara smiled. I was hoping you would say that. We leave in 3 days. That evening, Jake had dinner with his old team in the station's main dining hall. Pete was now a colonel in charge of training joint human Sanguis military units. Lisa had become the head of the new interspecies science division. Ben and Kate were both captains now, leading mixed crews on exploration missions. Remember when we were just 5 humans in a small ship? Lisa said, laughing. Now look at us, Pete said, gesturing around the dining hall where humans and Sanguis sat together at the same tables sharing food and stories. We started a whole new civilization. Jake started it, Kate said, with the worst pickup line in history. Everyone laughed, including the Sanguis at nearby tables who had learned to appreciate human humor. It wasn't a pickup line, Jake protested. It was cultural confusion. That led to interspecies bonding, Ben added with a grin. That led to the greatest military alliance in the galaxy, Pete finished. Jake looked around at his friends, both human and Sanguis. Nixandra was teaching a group of human trainees how to use Sanguis weapons. Kael'thor was working with Tony Chen on some kind of new technology that combined human creativity with Sanguis life energy. Most importantly, Queen Vexara was sitting with Admiral Foster and General Turner, planning the next phase of their alliance. They were not just military partners anymore. They were friends. You know what the best part is? Jake said to his team. What? Lisa asked. This is just the beginning. 3 days later, Jake stood on the bridge of a new type of ship. It was built using both human and Sanguis technology, crewed by both species, and commanded by both Jake and Prince Dexion. Prince Dexion was younger than his sister, but just as smart. He had learned human tactical flexibility while keeping Sanguis precision. He and Jake worked together perfectly. Approaching the source of the signal, reported the ship's pilot, a human woman named Captain Amy White. All stations ready, added the ship's Sanguis sensor officer. On the main screen, they could see a planet that looked like it had been through a war. Parts of it were still burning from the Devourer attack. But there were cities still standing, and ships moving around the planet. They survived, Queen Vexara said with approval. She had insisted on coming on this first diplomatic mission. They fought back, Prince Dexion added. These people have courage. The alien ships that approached them were different from anything they had seen before. They looked like they were made of living metal that changed shape as they moved. Incoming message, Captain White reported. The main screen showed the face of an alien that looked like a cross between a human and a tree. Its skin was bark-like, but its eyes were bright and intelligent. Greetings, warriors of the Human Sanguis Alliance, the alien said in accented but clear English. I am Grove Singer Zephyr of the Verdant Collective. We wish to thank you for destroying the Devourers who plagued our galaxy. Jake stepped forward. He now wore a uniform that combined elements from both human and Sanguis design, marking him as a representative of both species. Grove Singer Zephyr, Jake said formally. We are honored to meet you. I am Jake Morrison, and this is Queen Vexara and Prince Dexion. We came as soon as we received your signal. We have heard stories of your victory. Grove singer Zephyr said. How two different species became one people in the face of extinction. We wish to learn from you. And we want to learn from you, Jake said with a smile. That's what intelligent species do, they help each other. Over the next few hours, they learned about the Verdant Collective. They were a plant-based species that had fought the Devourers using tactics based on growth and adaptation, rather than technology and weapons. We grow our ships, Grove singer Zephyr explained as they toured the alien city. We grow our buildings, we grow our tools. Everything is alive and connected, like a forest, Lisa said in fascination. She had come on the mission to study new life forms. Exactly like a forest, Grove singer Zephyr confirmed. And like a forest, we are stronger when we have diversity. Jake understood immediately. You want to join our alliance. We want to help you build something greater than any one species could build alone, the alien said. The Devourers were not the only threat in this galaxy. There are others, but if we work together, we can face anything, Queen Vexara finished. That night, as Jake looked out at the alien city with its living buildings and growing ships, he thought about how much had changed since that day he had made a joke to a vampire queen. His team had started as 5 humans exploring space. Now they were the foundation of an intergalactic alliance that was growing every day. What are you thinking about? Queen Vexara asked, joining him at the window. About how one stupid comment changed everything, Jake said. Not stupid, the Queen said. Brave. Only a human would make a joke when facing death. Only a human would turn cultural confusion into friendship. Only a human would sacrifice everything for people they barely knew. Jake smiled. Only a sanguis would turn removing armor into a bonding ritual. Only a sanguis would share their life force with a complete stranger. Only a sanguis would trust aliens with their most sacred traditions. They stood together, looking out at the alien city where humans, sanguis, and Verdant Collective members were already working together on new projects. What do you think comes next? Queen Vexara asked. Jake thought about all the species they might meet, all the friendships they might build, all the challenges they might face together. More cultural confusion, probably, he said with a laugh. More misunderstandings that turn into partnerships. More proof that the universe is full of people who want to help each other, even when they look completely different. Queen Vexara smiled. And more humans making jokes at inappropriate times. Definitely more of that, Jake agreed. The next morning, Jake stood before a group of young recruits from all 3 species, human, sanguis, and Verdant Collective. They were the first class of the new Intergalactic Cooperation Academy. Welcome to the Academy, Jake said to the mixed group of students. You're here to learn how to work with people who are completely different from you, people who think differently, look differently, and come from different worlds. A young human raised his hand. Sir, what if we make mistakes? What if we accidentally offend someone? Jake smiled, remembering his own first day meeting aliens. You will make mistakes. Everyone does. The important thing is to learn from them. Some of the best friendships in the galaxy,